Are you burning the candle at both ends? Are you constantly thinking about work, whether you are with your husband, your children, on vacation, at parties or get togethers? Are you so laser focused, tunnel visioned that you don't see or hear anything or anyone around you because you're thinking about work? Does that sound like you? Today's topic is about burnout. Burnout is something that we can all experience, but especially leaders. Leaders tend to bear the weight of their organization, their teams on their shoulders. And burnout significantly impacts organizations' productivity, turnover rates, employee engagement, and absenteeism. All of that driving up company costs. Today, I've invited Carolon Donnally, a leading expert in the topic of burnout. Carolon Donnally is CEO of Carolon Donnally Consulting, which is a women-owned company in Ohio. She focuses on preventing and mitigating workplace-related burnout through leadership coaching, training, and organizational consulting. Let's welcome to the show, Carolon. Woo! Carolon, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So Carolon, tell me, how did you get involved in all of this? Like, why are you so passionate about helping women leaders in the area of burnout?
Yeah, so I would say that it started with my own journey with burnout. Back when I graduated college and, did the thing that most people do. They get a good job and they start this journey. They're excited. And I did all of those things. I got a great job. I was doing really well, climbing the corporate ladder. And one thing it led to another, and I got promoted, and they sent me to Delaware for me to be able to take on a new role because they thought that was the best thing for me. And I hit a wall. I began to not sleep at night, began to just simply not be able to concentrate at work. Everything was suffering. My productivity was suffering. I was producing awful work products, like all kinds of things were happening. And I was pretty crispy. The crazy thing was that they said, well, this is not working out. Let's go ahead and send you back to like being a people manager. That was what you loved before. Went back, was doing something that I thought was something that I loved, but I was still fried. And then one of the things that really kind of propelled this whole journey for me is one of my people came to me and they said, I'm dealing with some health issues and feeling really stressed, and I need some time off. And I did what all the good leaders tell, all the good handbooks tell you to do. And I said, oh, absolutely, let's get you to take some time off, whatever it is that you need from me, please just let me know. And that was the end of the story. Fast forward a number of years, I became a coach, began to see some different things in organizations, and came to a sheer realization that that wall that I hit, the wall that my employee hit, was something that was common, and that we as leaders didn't have what we needed, the tools that we needed to even combat this or do anything about it. And most organizations, in fact, didn't have the tools that they needed. All most organizations did was sending their people to employee assistance and get counseling, all of those things. But at the root source of being able to deal with it systemically in the workplace, that was something that was missing. And so when I saw that, I said, there's a better way. And so I used just my all of the experiences that I felt like God was kind of putting together through my own personal journey, through coaching, my organizational development journey. All of those things kind of began to like really equip me to be able to kind of go at this problem head on.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, I know that there's so many misconceptions, Carolon, about burnout. Can you define for our viewers today, what does burnout mean?
Yeah, so I wanted to get this right? So one of the things that has happened most recently is 2019, and this was pretty significant. The World Health Organization actually classified burnout as an occupational phenomenon that happens when chronic workplace stress kind of goes like unmanaged, right? And so that's kind of the like technical definition of what burnout is. But really what it looks like is that like complete feeling of like just simple emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion, just complete cynicism about work, just really feeling like, I just want to put as much space between myself and my work. And I just, I'm done as possible. Reduced productivity, all of those things kind of fall into burnout. And I think that if we asked most people would know what it feels like to just be at the very end of themselves and feel like they really can't keep going at the pace that they're going, kind of on that treadmill. And even when you're at home, you can't get the treadmill to stop inside your brain. So those are kind of the things that I think kind of classify burnout.
Okay. So you mentioned, I mean, you're on that treadmill. How does someone really know? Because I know myself, when I was running a business, I was just like super laser focused and I didn't know. I just thought this is what you do. So how does someone know that they're burning out? What are some of the characteristics?
Yeah, so it's that inability to turn it off. Right. And so can you go home and be fully present with your family? I'm not talking about those times when you are working on a big project and, things are just a little bit, hectic for that season, but it's kind of that constantly on, constantly going, never able to switch it off, never able to really rest, to be able to get what you need rest wise in order to be able to replenish yourself so that then you can keep going. It's that feeling of just almost like an engine that just keeps moving and doesn't have that opportunity to be able to kind of get the maintenance that it needs. So it's kind of that feeling of just like that anxiousness, that kind of depression kind of feeling that might be accompanied with that, in addition to the cynicism, just feeling like you just can't escape from the work pressures.
Okay. Who would you say is most susceptible to burnout? Like, yes, I think, right, would you say burnout can happen to anyone, but who's most likely?
Yeah, so I would say that it's actually a couple of different personality types that I would kind of pinpoint and say it is the folks who are really feeling very perfectionistic, right? It must be a certain way, and anything, right? Anything outside of sheer perfection, it being, to my standard, that is not good enough, right? And then that perfectionist mode forces us to then work incredible hours, to work ourselves almost to the bone, have unrealistic expectations of ourselves and others, to the point where we can't even we don't want to stop. We can't stop, right? So perfectionism is the first one that I would say. The other one is really that like hyperachiever, right? So, and many perfectionists are also hyperachievers, right? Yeah. And so, that hyperachiever kind of like, this achievement that I just got, it's not good enough. I must, strive for the next and the next and the next, right? And that is a part of the treadmill, right? Because there's nothing that is really good enough that is going to fill that hole inside of yourself that's saying must keep going, can't stop, and must achieve the next thing. And then I would say, in combination with those, it's also people pleaser, right? That inability to be able to set personal boundaries for yourself, set personal boundaries for work, set personal boundaries for your life, that not being able to say no to things that are no longer serving you, or to things that that you need to say no to in order to give yourself permission to rest or to take a break. Those are kind of some of the personality types that that I would say that are more prone to really burning out. And then, you know, there are others like being pessimistic and things like that, where you just, you know, you're constantly seeing the glass half full, you know, and nothing is always good enough. All of those things kind of contribute to burnout. But, you know, so those are the ones that I would point to as most prominent ones.
Wow. I think for me, yeah, mine is the perfectionistic, just hyper overachiever. Like when you said you're constantly going to the next thing, like once you accomplish one thing, you got to go to the next thing and the next. I never gave myself a break.
Yep. Yep. It's that engine and that treadmill. We all know what it feels like to be like, it's almost like there's an engine inside of us that cannot stop. We have to
Yes.
just keep going.
Yes.
And that's when you know that you are really on the road to burning out, because we as human beings, we were not meant to just keep going. I mean, you know, from a biblical perspective, even the Lord rested, right? And so
Yeah.
why are we not giving ourselves to do the same?
Wow, I love that. I resonated when you said engine. It's just something that goes. You don't, I felt like I couldn't control it. You don't feel like you can control it. It's just going and you're just going, you know? And when you said God rested, you know, I'm immediately thinking God called us human beings, right? Not human doings. We're not just to keep doing, but to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are not machines, right?
We're not
And
robots.
even the machines, right? They take them down, right? Take them off the server, have that downtime in order to be able to fix things that are broken, in order to be able to like look and see, like, are there updates that are needed, right? I mean, like all of these things are things that we do for our machines, but why aren't we doing it for ourselves?
Wow, so good, Carolon. Well, folks, if you like what you're hearing so far, please give me a like, subscribe to this channel, and comment down below. What are some ways where you are feeling burned out in your life? Not only that, I'm so excited because Carolon was so generous enough to give us a free worksheet called Rituals for Turning Work Off in Your Brain. I love the title, so practical, and it really is effective ways in which you can turn work off as soon as you get home. So you can find that down below in the show notes. So be sure to download that, click on it. Also, if you are a leader who is feeling burned out, if you feel that the temperature, the thermometer of your organization, that people are burning out, they're getting absent, just negative morale, and you need help, my friend Carolon, she is there for you. She's ready and willing to consult with you, and she is an amazing consultant to help you in this area. All her information, and Carolon, actually, where can we find you?
So it would be www.carolon, Carolon, and then Donnally, Donnally.com. So that's where you find me.
Okay, awesome. So that's where, if they need help, they can reach you there.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect, folks. So there you have it. You need to, if you are feeling burned out, you've got to contact Carolon. All right, let's get back to the show. So Carolon, tell me, what are some of the most effective ways that we can deal with burnout?
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm really super clear on, right, is the fact that burnout is an organizational phenomenon, right? And right. By that, I mean that it's a culture, there's an organizational cultural aspect of burnout that really needs to be acknowledged, right? Because oftentimes we say, okay, so this individual is burned out and everything like that, and almost rest it at the feet of the individual who is kind of succumbing to the pressure of what is happening in the organization. So inside of an organization, different policies are taking place, different decisions are being made by the leaders that are contributing to workplace burnout, right? Meaning that there is a cultural aspect of the way that that leader might be leading the team, or the way that the organization might have this always on kind of culture where the expectation is kind of set, that whether, it is said, out loud, or just set in the way that people simply do things, that we need to always be on. We need to constantly be running. It doesn't matter whether or not it's the weekend or the nights or whatever. You need to make sure that you are picking up the phone. If you're on vacation, you need to make sure that you are still working, right? So when I say, so I want to kind of acknowledge that piece of it, that there are things that are happening in the organization that are signaling to people that this is the way that they need to be, that they need to show up. And so just want to say that out loud, because that's a piece of it that's really, really, really important.
Well, what I want to ask you is, you say it's organizational, but somebody has to start this thing, right? So
Yep.
I'm thinking of the leader, because I feel, right, and I've read, everything falls and rises on leadership, right? So doesn't burnout start with the leader first? And where, if you can comment, where does the leader, is it self-intrinsic? Like, is the leader putting it on themselves to be this kind of way, and then it trickles down to the organization? Like, where's the leader feeling pressure from?
Yeah, so I would say that it kind of starts at the organizational level and those higher leadership level, and it begins to trickle down to the leader level, and then trickle down to the employees and the teams. And so I agree with you 100% that those leaders are absolutely critical to both being able to help with burnout, and also critical in their example, right, to their employees about what it means to succeed, or what it means to do well here in this organization. And so I would say that the very first thing that needs to have some attention paid to it is this whole piece about that frontline manager, right? That frontline leader that is the closest to the employee. Why they are so important is because regardless of whether or not any leader wants to own it or not, right? They are the ones that their employees are looking at and looking to as the example for what does it mean to succeed in this organization? What does it mean? What things do I need to do in order for me to be able to do well, or for this, for me to be looked favorably on, et cetera, right? And so if that leader is that, in that perfectionistic mode, nothing is good enough, must do it over again kind of thing, then inevitably they are going to pass those things down to their employees, whether, said verbally or non-verbally, right? It will trickle down. It'll kind of seep, is what I say, right? And so, we have to start first with the leader and help that leader to be able to identify some of the derailers or saboteurs, as I say it, and be able to then, from that place of identification and then dealing with those particular things, then we kind of work on like their leadership and how it is that they are leading their people. What is the example? What are the verbal and nonverbal kind of things that are being said, or the things that are, overtly or covertly norms in the organization that perhaps their folks are picking up on, that's causing the burnout. And I would also say there's also, work. There's the demands of work, right? So the amount of work that people are being expected to do, right? Those are things that are like the practical things that leaders need to be paying attention to in order for them to be helping, their employees with burnout. So lots of things, but it does start directly with the leader and kind of helping that leader kind of get super clear about what it is that it means to be a great leader and to help their employees do good work.
Okay, that's good. And sorry, you said something about frontline workers. Can you repeat that again? Because I missed it.
Yeah. So, the leader is the one that is directly responsible for like frontline employees, right?
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, and so that's the place where, it's kind of one of the entry points for me and my work is working directly with those leaders in order to be able to help them. And then from the point of them being in a good and better place, then, working with their teams and helping their teams to be able to become kind of burnout resistant, as I call it.
Okay. Okay. So Carolyn, I am a leader. I'm the CEO. I'm a business owner. I hear my women saying that. How do I help my team members, or if I lead a department of people, how do I prevent them from being burned out?
Yeah, so good. All right. So the first thing that I would say is start with yourself, right? What are some of the things that you are doing in order to rest?
So I have to ask myself as a leader, what is Jolly doing to rest?
Yes. What boundaries are you setting, right, for your work and life?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, right. Are you always on?
Oh,
What does saying no look like for you? Right? Can you say no? Right? Um, Being able to kind of do some self-diagnosis around that perfectionistic tendency, or hyperachiever tendency, all of those things, and being able to say not only what is this serving inside of me, but what is it costing me, right?
yeah.
And what am I willing to do in order for me to mitigate the things that's costing me, right? Because it's costing you something, right? And you have to be able to acknowledge that, right? And so it's really from that place of self-compassion, right, that you are then able to help your people. So I say start with yourself first,
That's good.
because once you have that self-compassion, then you're able to actually see your people and see that they are in fact burnt out,
Wow,
right?
that is so good, Carolyn. I just need to sit with that for a second. You have to love yourself, because if you can't love yourself, how the heck are you going to love your team members? How the heck are you going to love, your business partners, anybody else? You cannot until you love yourself and give yourself grace,
Yeah.
and lower your expectations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even, it is love, but it is also like, it's almost like having blinders on
Yeah.
when we don't care for ourselves. Because, when I told the story of my employee, I literally could not see what was happening with him, couldn't have compassion for what was happening with him, because I was not having that for myself.
Yes.
Right. Right. And I couldn't even say to him what it is that, couldn't have that conversation, that burnout conversation around, what is it that you need? What is it that is creating this, this sense of stress and for you? What else could we be doing? Let's brainstorm and collaborate together in order for us to be able to figure out a fix. I couldn't have that conversation with him because I was unwilling to have that conversation, even for myself, could not advocate for myself. So I couldn't advocate for him.
Yes, because you have blinders on. When you are on all cylinders, when
Yep.
that engine is going and not stopping, you naturally have blinders on. Is that safe to say?
I
You
would,
will have blinders on.
yeah, yeah. Because you're going so fast that you can't, it's like being in a car that's going at 90 miles an hour, right? You're not able to like take in the nuances of the tree that you just passed, or the blades of grass, or any of those things, because
Wow.
literally you are going too fast to be able to process what's happening around you. And it's the same thing with burnout. You are going too fast to process it. And so literally it's that slowing down in yourself that then allows you to be able to actually see what it is that is happening around you, and then to be able to react effectively and react from a place of compassion for your folks.
Wow. So on that, how do I prevent burnout in myself as the leader? Because it starts with the leader first.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So I would say that, the first thing is to be able to acknowledge that there is something going on. And I think that in our culture here in America, uh, just like you said, I didn't know that there was anything wrong with being this way,
Because
right?
isn't it, sorry, Carolyn, isn't it applauded? I don't know if that's the right word. It's applauded. It's
Mhm.
like, yay, good for you. You are waking up at 4 a.m. and you're going to bed at 3 a.m. Good for you. That's the way of, that's the American way. Work
Yep,
till you drop.
yep, yep. And rest is a four-letter word because no one no one applauds you when you say, I'm going to take a break, I'm
Yeah.
going to rest. No one is applauding you, right? And so, being able to see rest as a superpower, being able to see it as something that is imperative to things like innovation, right? Right. When do you get your best ideas? Right? In the shower,
Yeah.
washing
On
dishes,
vacation.
right? 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 When we are at rest, we are able to innovate, and we're able to be creative, and we're able to solve problems and challenges that we hadn't been able to solve when we were going at 5,000 miles an hour, right? And so as a leader, right? Your ability to be able to just take that pause, and to be able to have those moments, stop booking your weekends full of 50 million and one things, right?
That's good.
Being able to, when work is done, to be able to shut it off, and to be able to give yourself a break in the evening, taking breaks during the day, giving your people the opportunity to take breaks during the day. One person even mentioned, having a no meeting Fridays, right? Where you're not doing that. Being able to not be on every single meeting. Do they require you? Do you need to be on every single meeting? Or is it that, you feel like you're going to miss out, or, they asked me to, or whatever? Is there a way for you to be able to get the information that you need without being on every single meeting? So being able to be deliberate about your day, and being able to be deliberate about even, your employees and what it is that they're being tasked to do. All of those things are things that are really important. So recognition, like I said, right? Recognition of it in you, and then being able to see it in others. See when your employee keeps, they're coming in late. I'm coming in early, going home late. That's not a badge of honor. That's them about to burn out, right? Absenteeism, all of those things. You're able to see it once you're able to recognize it in yourself, and then being able to address it, and being able to have conversations with them where they can, in fact, say, this project, the deadline, it's just too much. We need to move it. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get this done. They need to be able to say that to you. If they can't, you are probably burning them out, and you don't even know it. So your people need to be able to have some really honest conversations.
Wow. What is the impact? What is the dangers that burning out causes to the organization? What does it cost the organization?
Yeah, really good question. It costs the organization, I call it presenteeism. Well, the experts call it presenteeism.
What does that mean?
Right? So you as an employee are crispy, burnt out, but you show up at work
Yeah,
every single day.
because you need a paycheck.
Absolutely, you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
However, you stare at your computer screen for most of the day.
Wow.
You're not getting anything done. You're not very productive. And the things that you actually do produce in those moments of, like, the light comes on and you're able to work and get something done. Perhaps it's filled with lots of mistakes. There's lots of rework that needs to happen. And so even your productivity just begins to suffer and things like that, right? So that's one of the things that happens is productivity actually goes down and gets lost, or lots of mistakes get made. All of those things begin to happen. Then there's also absenteeism. You've gotten to the place where you've hit the wall. It's I call it the Sunday night scaries, right? It's that feeling that you get of dread right before Monday morning. That's happening every single day of the week. And so you need to take a break, like as much as possible, because you're literally so anxious about work that you can't function. And so therefore absenteeism begins to increase. And then, people get to a place where they're done. They don't want to do this anymore. They don't want to live like this anymore. And you get attrition, right? People just simply leaving the organization. When people leave the organization, I think that that costs the organization. I think Gallup said, it's a conservative estimate that it's 2 times that employee's salary, right?
Wow.
For the organization that just lost them. And that's primarily because of the fact that you have to go out and, find a person who has the comparable skill. We know that in this present job market, that's very difficult for many organizations to replace people. And in addition to that, it makes it so that they have to retrain them, right? We know that people who are being trained to do a new job, it takes them a while to come up to speed, right? Yeah. And so therefore there's a loss in productivity with regards to, getting that person up to speed, all of those things. And so therefore that's those things. Then there are the costs of like employee assistance programs and the increased use of those because people are so burnt out that they are, seeking counseling at increased rates and things of that nature. And depending on the employee assistance program that organization has, it could be driven by usage. And so therefore usage goes up, the cost goes up. And then, I would say that the last and final thing, but one of the most important things is increased cost of healthcare, right? Because what we know is that people who are burnt out, they go to the doctors more, they have an increased risk of heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure increases. All of these things begin to increase. And so therefore, those are factors that kind of factor into that organization's healthcare costs, because if more and more of your people are getting sick, that means that it's going to be, more costly for them to be insured.
Wow, those are all great things that you went over. So it's healthcare costs, it's attrition, it is just the morale of the company, all of those things, productivity that affect someone when they're feeling burned out. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, I just thought of this. What do you think is the fear in leaders that keeps them going on this engine? What is the fear inside leaders that make them keep going?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Honestly, I think it's a couple of different things. I think that there is a little bit of shame and stigma associated with saying that I need to stop. I need a break, right? It's kind of going back to that, rest is a 4-letter word, because in our culture here, we don't want to say that we can't. We want to say that we always can.
Yes.
And so, I think that there's some of that. There's also, perhaps the fear of letting others down, feeling like I can't let my teammates down. What will they think of me? All of those things, there's the fear that, that perhaps that the organization might replace me if I can't get this done. All of those things are things that I think are fears that happen, inside of our minds. And it's not until we get to a place of being able to start talking about these things out loud, being able to voice our needs out loud, that we begin to tear down those fears and begin to unravel that. Because I think that when fears sit in the dark, then it grows legs. But you shine light on it, right? You start talking about it. You start bringing up your concerns about all of the things that you're dealing with. Then all of a sudden, we can do something about it, and it no longer has its power.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Carolyn, do you think it takes more courage to rest than it actually is to work, to keep going?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that I don't know that it's courage necessarily. I think that it's discipline, right? Because I think that we haven't yet explored the discipline of rest in our lives, the been able to get good at that. And so it feels awkward and uncomfortable for us to be able to rest. It feels awkward and uncomfortable for us to say that we even need rest. And so I feel like that's a muscle that hasn't been flexed at all.
Yeah.
And so being able to have the discipline of just taking those like little moments of leaning into the discomfort of being able to say, push back a little and be able to say, well, this deadline that we have, from a leader perspective, right? Being able to push back and say the deadline that's being set, my people have X, Y, and Z currently on their plates. And so if you want us to meet this deadline, what is it that needs to be taken off the plate for them to be able to meet it, because they can't do everything, right? So being able to flex and even have that conversation as a leader is one of those things that's just like, it takes discipline. It takes, to your point, courage, but it's something that gets built up over time. So, it almost makes me think, what is the small thing that you can do in order to begin to flex that discipline and that muscle of being able to give yourself permission to rest, give yourself space to be able to say no to that additional, request that's coming in for your time on the weekend, so that then you can actually, take time to go in the woods and, take a nature walk, or stop, read a book, or, do nothing. How can you build those things, those disciplines in?
I love it. I love that you're saying it's not one and done. It's not like you rest once and then you keep on going for years. It's a practice. It's a muscle that you work and flex and exercise regularly, often, because that brings balance, right? And when you are balanced and whole and rested and full of peace, guess what? Just like you said, it seeps, it trickles, and it can't help but go to your team members and your departments.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying, even about the seeping piece, because, not only does rest seep with your team members, but it then seeps with your family. So imagine now you're burnt out. It seeps to your family. Are you short with your husband or your wife or your children or your whoever?
Yeah.
Are you know what I mean? And so we can't underestimate the impact of both the value of things like rest, but also underestimate the detriment that might be happening because of the fact that when we're crispy at work, it seeps into our home life as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carolyn. That is all the time that we have today. I'm sure I'm going to be asking you to come back on the show for another topic. I mean, you've just given us so much wisdom, so much pearls, so much to think about and chew on. And I appreciate you just taking the time and being with us here today. And yes, ladies, again, if you are feeling burned out, If you want to prevent burnout, you see it in your staff, team members, departments, organization, and you just see it rising. Stop and call Carolon. Look her up. She is willing to help you. You need help to put the fire out, and she is more than willing to help you out. So contact her. And yeah, that is it for me today, guys. I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much.